Our next artwork is the Battle of Isis. Now, art historians debate as to who the artist of this artwork was. The traditional idea is that this is by Philoxenos of Eretria. However, more recent scholarship has suggested a woman artist. Her name was Helen of Egypt. The artwork that we're looking at here, though, is not the original piece. Instead, this is, you guessed it, a Roman copy. A Roman copy that was part of a larger floor mosaic in the House of the Faun in Pompeii, Italy. Now, we're going to talk about this piece, its location. We're going to talk about the composition, but before we get to any of that, let's talk about the material, what it's made out of. It is a mosaic, which is your vocabulary term. Mosaic, an image created from small cubes of colored stone or marble. And then I've put in parentheses tesserae. Tesserae is four-sided, meaning that you put these small sides, or four-sided or five-sided or whatever, but these geometric shapes of some kind of colored stone or marble into a framework that creates an image. I have a video that I want to show you about the making of mosaics, and I'm writing it down so that I remember to add it into your playlist. So watch the video about mosaics. I would be showing it in class with you if I could. When we look at this, we see the mosaic tiles that have survived, and then these large splotches of tan, of beige. Those are the areas that have been destroyed and therefore could not be restored or repaired. So here, the art restorers chose to leave those lost portions blank rather than filling them in with other paint or stonework, mosaic tiles. Does that make sense? I hope so. Now, what is the scene? It's called the Battle of Isis. The Battle of Isis was an epic defeat of the Persian king by Alexander the Great. Here we are. We got Alex, and he's got his soldiers against these Persian forces. The Persian king was Darius III, or you might hear his name pronounced Darius. Darius or Darius, both are correct. There is Darius III, Darius III, and you can see how this battle is raging. We see horses rearing up, we see spears going forward and back, people collapsing on the ground. Oh my goodness gracious. This was a real battle that really happened, and it marked a turning point in Alexander's control over or defeat of Persia. It happened here, right in this corner. And at the time, the king of Persia still maintained control over the Persian Empire, and he decided to have a battle with Alex on the Turkish peninsula, on the Anatolian peninsula. And during the battle, Darius III realized that he was going to be defeated, and so instead he ordered a retreat. And that is the moment that we see being depicted here. It's the retreat of Darius and his soldiers as Alexander and his army plow through. Darius suffered a humiliating defeat with this retreat, and because I want to show you, this is a reconstruction of what we think the mosaic looked like in its original form. So what we see is Darius pulling back, and he's ordered for the retreat, right? His mouth is open and he's ordering for the retreat. His chariot driver is whipping the horses, and the horses are pulling away from the battle. But in the chaos of the war, the chaos of the screams and the falling of soldiers, other Persian soldiers have not heard the call for retreat, and they advance and they advance. And Alex looks at Darius. He knows. If we look here in this detail, Where's my detail? Look at Alexander, unwavering, plows through and makes eye contact with Darius. Darius, who's shouting, "Retreat, retreat!" The soldiers around him hear him and are retreating. Look at him trying to push his horse back in the direction of retreat, but other soldiers behind, advancing to their death. The chaos. Now, this artwork here is a Roman copy. The original was not a mosaic. The original was a painting. The original painting was done by either Philoxenos or Helen. But we don't have the original painting. The original painting is lost. What we do have is a mosaic copy. And so as art historians, we use the resources we have to then infer what we have lost. The mosaic gives us a sense not only of what the original painting would have looked like, but gives us a sense of what all paintings might have included. When we take a closer look at it, we see attention to landscape, or I should say a ground plane. Everybody seems to be occupying a shared space. There is a line indicating, or not a line, there is a horizon line indicating sky and earth. If we look closer at the figures, there is indications of highlights and midtones and shadows to show mass of the bodies. There are even shadows. So there is a light source that casts shadows on these figures. The composition is layered rather than stacking up the individuals so that you see everyone. The figures are layered behind each other to give you depth. So when we look at this, we can see how perhaps other artworks, other paintings would have also included a modeling of figures with highlights, midtones, and shadows. How other paintings would have had a sense of a light source casting shadows. How other paintings would have depicted scenes with landscapes with long senses of depth and perspective, and not compressed or singular figures on a flat surface. So art historians love this mosaic because it offers a glimpse into the types of paintings that we only have writings about and we don't have any copies of. If this mosaic is true to the original. It should be true to the original because the original was super famous, and that's why it's even made into a mosaic. Now, I say that it's a copy of it in the House of the Faun in Pompeii. Where are you talking about, Miss Cortez? In Italy, in the Roman town of, or the Roman city of Pompeii, there were several neighborhoods where wealthy people had these elaborate villas, these mansions, and these mansions would be decorated with statuary and sculptures that would be placed throughout the house and the gardens, and a lot of those statues, a lot of those sculptures would be copies of Greek originals. I told you, the Romans, they love all that stuff. Remember our Ryoichi warriors, that ship of all of that Greek art that was going to be sold? It was probably going to be sold to a lot of these rich people, and they would buy it here and put it in their house. So this house, we call it the House of the Faun because we don't know the original owners' names. That evidence is lost. But we call it the House of the Faun because the welcoming fountain, or not fountain, pond in the front of the house has this dancing faun statue. So it gets the nickname House of the Faun. The city of Pompeii is an ancient Roman city that we will look at very soon, but it was preserved by the volcanic eruption. And this volcanic eruption came down, burying the city and thus preserving much of the structures, the artworks, that little dancing faun, and just beyond the faun, right here, is where the original mosaic was. It was on the floor. It was on the floor of this house in an area that would be typically used for like an office, your work from home kind of situation. You have your clients come in and you greet them here at this famous mosaic floor, or this famous painting as a mosaic floor. So you see, it's like a power move, right? To have this famous painting of the Battle of Isis as a floor mosaic in your house. So it should be true to what the painting originally looked like. Here are some of those details I was hoping to show you. Look at that connection. Alexander with, you see that? How he likes to be depicted? Mouth open, these blazing eyes, that heavy brow, and that wild mane of lion's hair, right? Or I should say, that wild hair like a lion's mane. And he's making eye contact. He's not breaking that kind of eye contact with Darius as he retreats. Retreat! Retreat! I love this detail because you get to really appreciate the mosaic tile work here. Isn't it beautiful? Oh my goodness. Look at this mosaic work. It's stunning. Now, this figure here, let's talk about him. He is a Persian soldier who has fallen. And where is he in this? He is right here. Now, I want to call our attention to him because it goes back to our concept of the classical period, a balance of opposites. Okay. You're already well aware that you could have a balance of opposites and have a battle, right? The Metopes at the Parthenon, that battle of the Lapith men versus the Centaurs. And here we see Alex and Darius and this battle of opposites coming together. Okay. We see one advancing and one retreating, balance of opposites. But let's look at this soldier here. He is a Persian soldier. We would recognize that by his uniform. And he is right behind, or right at the side of Darius's chariot. And he's fallen back during the chaos of this retreat. As Darius's chariot driver is turning the chariot, he's been pushed to the ground. And above him, another horse is going to be advancing and trampling on him. He's gonna die, you guys. Look at this soldier. How do we see two faces? What is this? You know what this is? This round shape here is a shield. A shield which has been polished. A shield which has been polished so brightly to show his reflection. His shield has fallen on top of him, and he is looking at himself moments before he's gonna die. So what we have here is a man caught between life and death. This is something that is a play on opposites, but there is so much drama and pain and fear in this moment that art historians want to call attention to this, and then connect it to the larger discussion of the late classical. This requirement to have a little bit of humility, of humanity. And here, a young man facing his own death.